I've been getting this strange symptom. It's called periorbital edema. It's where one or both of my eyes are swollen.
Puffy eyes, what do you do? And it's caused by excess fluid, mucin.
About 1/3 of the nail is concave. So from the base all the way to the top, it's just indented. It's just this big groove.
Your fingernails are a window into your metabolism, your immune system, nutrient status. They're a check engine light.
Ozempic personality. So it's these people that are saying it's not just numbing their food, it's numbing them, and they're becoming disinterested in love.
Okay, so let's break it down. Are GLP-1 peptides killing your love life? Hi, I'm Dr. Will Cole. Wellness is a sacred art, and you are the masterpiece. This is the art of being well. What's up, and welcome to the Art of Being Well, everybody. Every Ask Me Anything episode, we have a fun giveaway for you all that listen to the pod. We're giving away free telehealth, functional medicine, clinical case reviews is what we call them, right? The name. If you want a specific protocol recommendations based on what you're trying to optimize and heal from, and if you want a functional medicine perspective on your health, whether it's health optimization and you just want to thrive and live your best life, or you're going through some health challenges, anything in between, you can win that. And you'd be working with the telehealth team and give you recommendations based on your health case. You could also win a free signed book, either the inflammation spectrum, Ketotarian, intuitive fasting, or gut feelings. And you could also win a supplement protocol stack that we have at drwillcole.com, either the Art of Being Well or the Art of Being Well Apothecary. These are different things that we utilize clinically, or Longevity RX, anything. You'd win one of those three things if you win. You could choose one of those things if you win. For a chance to win, head on over to Apple Podcasts and rate and review the Art of Being Well there on Apple Podcasts. You could leave your Instagram handle in the Apple Podcast review itself, or take a screenshot of that review and message us on Instagram at the Art of Being Well _ It's just a picture of the logo of the podcast. And then we'll go through every Ask Me Anything episode. We'll go through the Apple Podcast reviews and then the direct messages, and we'll randomly pick winners every single episode. We'll reach out to you, and you can pick which one of those three things that you want to win. You can win it. You've won it.
Yeah.
If you've won it, you've won it. To get your questions answered in these episodes, you can submit your voice messages and we'll play them on these episodes. So to do that, you have to go to speakpipe.com/Dr. Will Cole. That's speakpipe.com/Dr. Will Cole, WILLCOLE, if you don't know how to spell my name. So speakpipe.com/Dr. Will Cole. Yeah. And then you just leave a voice message and we'll get to as many of your health questions in these episodes. It could be about your own health journey. It could be about someone you love's health journey. It could be about a wellness trend you saw on social media, health science study that you saw in the scientific literature, or it could be something you saw in the news, right? As it relates to health, human health, health policy. We cover a wide variety of questions. So to get to the first question, who has the first question today?
Tis me.
Tis you.
Tis I, Emily.
We're going to do the rest of the episode in the Elizabethan tongue. Can we?
You can.
Candy?
Candy. All right. Our first question is from Knoxville.
Hi, Dr. Will Cole and team. I have some questions about my Hashimoto's disease. So I was diagnosed in 2022, and I've gotten my various labs back, including TSH, T3, T4, free T3, free T4, and I have been on levothyroxine for the same amount of time. I have been getting this strange symptom. It's called periorbital edema. It typically happens once a month or more frequently. Sometimes I notice it paired with low sleep, but it's where one or both of my eyes are swollen. So it's not my eye, but it's my both eyelids. And I'm curious if you have any suggestions or treatments for me. I've seen a ton of different doctors and endocrinologists about it, but I haven't been able to determine the root cause or next steps that I should do. Thank you so much. I would appreciate any insights.
I love that ending, that dramatic pause, and then the ending.
Yes, I loved
love it. So,
she sounded like us, though, listing off the labs. It was like...
Yeah, she knows her stuff.
Yeah.
Erudite young human. So let's break it down. Puffy eyes, what do you do if you have some puffiness around the eyes? So periorbital edema, called mixed edema as well. It's seen with Hashimoto's. I should say this. It's like it can be. It's not to say certainly we know lots of people with Hashimoto's that don't have this, but mixed edema it certainly can be. It's can be found more commonly with someone with Hashimoto's. I think that's fair to say, and it's caused by excess fluid, mucin, which is sort of the structural backbone to mucus. It's basically just high swelling around the eye. The fact that she's saying it's happening a couple times a month, let's get into that, sort of the context of it. When someone is diagnosed with something like Hashimoto's, and for people that don't, I'll be brief about this, but it's an autoimmune thyroid issue. So it's when the immune system is attacking the thyroid. And we'd get this, we run labs for people around the world. We'd run a thyroid peroxidase antibody and thyroid globulin antibody, TPO antibody and TGA antibody. And we want to look at that impaired, and that's the immune system, the flags for destruction. We're seeing if the immune system's tagging the thyroid enzyme, the thyroid protein, respectively, with flags for destruction. So that molecular mimicry, that case of mistaken identity when the immune system is cross-reacting, if you will, against the thyroid and either protecting you from a virus or pathogen, stress, trauma. I mean, there's physiological and mental, emotional, even spiritual components to what can trigger autoimmunity. And that's based on health history and labs and context, right? But there's something that's making the immune system feel unsafe and is trying to protect you, and then it's a turning against yourself, against the thyroid, and there's over 100 plus autoimmune conditions. So it could be different things for different people, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's, in the gut, the joints with rheumatoid arthritis, the skin with psoriasis, your skin with vitiligo, your hair with alopecia. These are different autoimmune issues. So just brief mechanism of action understanding here of what she's talking about. So with Hashimoto's, when someone's diagnosed with something, it's easy to say, well, it's automatically all that, right? And someone with one autoimmune issue is an increased likelihood of another autoimmune problem, or what's called polyautoimmunity. Because remember, it's not the thyroid that's the problem. It's this larger autoimmune attack. With that said, with this eye puffiness, eye swelling that's happening intermittently a couple times a month during the every month, it's happening throughout the year. I want to look at her T4 or T3 levels. She said she has them done, but are they in the optimal zone? She's on levothyroxine. She's on the thyroid replacement hormone. There's a difference between optimal and average. The labs reference range we know is based on that statistical bell curve average of people who go to labs. People that go to labs aren't necessarily like living, thriving, vibrant, like long health span lives.
Right.
So, yes, she has the labs done, which is brilliant, and she's knowing where to look. But I'd want to look at, is it in the functional range? Where we get our name in functional medicine, where is your body functioning the best? Where does optimal, vibrant wellness, where does you feeling your best reside, which is in that tighter interval within that larger reference range. So we'd want to make sure, is that T3? 100, 180, is it not? Because the lab reference range is going to be a lot broader. So we want to look at that, again, that's interval within that spectrum of where does thriving wellness reside. And then free T3, is it 3? Did she mention? I think
she mentioned, I think, having it done, but I don't.
She didn't give her numbers, but it sounds like you did have these done, which is good because most people don't even look at T3. They just look at total T4, TSH, maybe free T4. But we want to look at total T3 and free T3. This is the active thyroid hormone. So most of these mixed edema, swelling, eye puffiness can be alleviated when you just optimize the thyroid hormones.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So making sure that they're optimal here. So I want to confirm, are they in the optimal zone? And if they're not, let's get them in the optimal zone. So if it's an under conversion of T4 to T3, 80% of that conversion of that thyroid hormone, or the activation of the thyroid hormone, the body takes one of those iodine molecules off of that T4, making it into T3. 80% of the conversion happens in the liver, 20% happens in our good old gut. Our gut health is why it's so important. Liver health, gut health, so important for thyroid health.
Yeah.
And then we want to look at nutrient deficiencies, which impact these enzymes like 5' deiodinase, which takes the deiodinizing, it's taking the iodine molecule off. Your body needs things like selenium and zinc and protein and vitamin A and vitamin D. So looking at nutrient deficiencies, which can impact the conversion of T4 to T3 and just thyroid hormone production as a whole. So with that said, I want to look at the lay of the land of what's going on diagnostically, because the eye puffiness is the check engine light. Why is that check engine light on? And if it is a thyroid deficiency, let's optimize and get those hormones looking good. And then let's keep it open to maybe it's not the thyroid hormone at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So you may have the thyroid narrowed down fine. You ruled out the Hashimoto's component, which can cause that eye puffiness, but maybe it's something else that's going on. Is it a food sensitivity? Is it histamine intolerance that can cause the puffiness? Which is found with these sort of autoimmune inflammation spectrum issues. What's the gut component here, right?
Yeah.
Even if beyond the Hashimoto's gut connection there, just the larger influence that the gut can have on our skin health, on how we look like on the outside.
Yeah.
So I would build a protocol. We would build a protocol clinically for someone like this based on the mechanism of action. You don't want to just throw in things at the dark. But some things to think about is that are going to be good for anybody. Make sure your nutrient status is up. These things that I mentioned, selenium, zinc, protein, vitamin A, vitamin D, iron, omegas, iron. Yeah, certainly iron. And looking at your gut health, and that's all inside out stuff, right? That's all, let's get the eye puffiness sorted out from the inside out. And then she mentioned once or twice a month, I am not sleeping on the fact that is there something going on with her menstrual cycle?
That's literally my first thought.
Estrogen and progesterone's influence on these things, which all hormones are interconnected. So it's like, okay, maybe it's estrogen and progesterone, something within your menstrual cycle that's influencing the thyroid hormone. So maybe we have to look at the interplay between the hormonal symphony and it's getting those other estrogen and progesterone balanced to not create sort of a ripple effect with the thyroid. That's a possible mechanism here. So that's a whole separate conversation. And then I'll say one other thing. Well, let's just get your hot take, and then I'll go over some other topical outside-in things to consider.
Well, one of the things that first comes to mind, too, is even if it is your sex hormones and it is menstrual related, that's typically a victim of something else. Like, again, you're like, yes, you can manage these, you can help support this, you can help support that. It's secondary to, well, why did the hormones stop working in the first place? They don't just stop working, something influenced them. So is it the gut again? Is it something else that we have to consider? And then I know it's a little outside the box when you're thinking about this, but when I hear once a month, I also start to think parasites, because I'm like, okay, because they can become more active around their eggs, typically, whether it's protozoan, which is those, you're not going to see them in your bowel movement. It's a microscopic, not a worm necessarily, can still influence your gut microbiome. And they are a living thing and they have a life cycle, and their eggs hatch typically around the full moon. So you see people whose symptoms are more exacerbated once a month. And a lot of times women will go, oh, it's my cycle, but your cycle can also sync up with the full moon. And so how much of this, is there something else even deeper underlying that it's causing that? And that's where you can look at
I love that you brought that up.
Anyways, so I just was like,
I mean, if we're not talking about parasites in the full moon,
what are we doing?
Are we living?
Yeah. Why are we here?
So sci-fi. Yeah, right?
So I love you doubted yourself.
Sci-fi. I was like, it sounded just funny coming out of my mouth.
Sci-fi. Well, the emphasis is on the wrong syllable, but
yes, syllable. Anyways, but it sounds crazy, but it's true. It's just nature. It's just like how the waves are impacted by it, and we are. And you talk about this on your socials a lot.
Love that moon.
It's very important to recognize that the things that you think are just happening or random could be influenced by something else.
Right. Because, and we go back to seeing the picture as a whole, because you don't have to have gut problems to have gut problems.
Yes.
Right. Like, so I think that it is understanding that it could be showing up differently, but it doesn't mean that the gut is not connected here. And really, I mean, when you're talking about autoimmunity, well, why did the immune system feel unsafe in the first place?
Those little critters in your gut.
Right?
Yeah. So are parasites living in your eye?
Wait,
Well,
stop.
I'm just joking.
We're
That was just to get
Knox,
people's
so
attention.
don't get
so
scared.
we're not saying that. We're saying the connection between the gut's influence of the immune system.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the areas that it impacts. So,
But with that said,
We have seen people
let's just talk about this. This is horribly sad for the people going
Yes,
through it.
it's actually
Horribly
it's not
sad.
funny. It's
Well, I think it's good shedding light on it, but to the outsider, there's so much medical gaslighting for it. So this is, I didn't think this was going to come up, but
sorry.
So worms coming out of your skin, threads filaments that are coming out.
Well, you can even look at your actual blood vessels in the eye, and some people can
to
say,
break it down, like what we've seen clinically.
Yeah, so we've seen people who have had them come out their nose, come out their eyes. They've seen threads coming out their skin on anywhere on the body, but most often we see it a lot on the arms. So it is, and obviously in bowel movements too. They're seeing things pass. Now, sometimes is it mucus, or there's other things that you can think that it is, but.
It's called Morgellons, and it is a controversial diagnosis and label. But there's, without a doubt, there's an immune system microbiome disturbance that's happening, and I wouldn't put them all under one category.
Yeah.
But it's these what the world would call mystery illnesses that we see.
Yeah. And it's not rare, like when you're talking about parasites too, because it's always, I swear, it's the first thing people want to know when we go over labs. Like, tell me, Emily, right now, do I have worms or parasites?
Yeah.
Like, they're really like sometimes scared of it, but it also is not rare to be exposed to these things.
Yeah.
Like contaminated water, eating out, having pets. You know, we're going to be exposed quite often, but our immune system should know how to identify and how to handle these guys.
And they're not all necessarily pathogenic either, right?
No,
I mean, there's some you can have protozoans specifically that can live that are completely asymptomatic, right? I mean,
and transient, meaning they're just moving
like
through.
Blastocyst hominis is one. Like you see it show up on stool tests, and it's like the person may be completely asymptomatic.
Exactly.
And so we don't want to pathologize all of these things. It's just part of microbiome diversity. But you don't want to see overgrowth of these things, and certainly some are never normal to have in a healthy human.
Yeah, because you can have exposure, but it's not going to become hostile to the immune system
the body will
all the time.
The body will regulate itself. And then even more wild, we should talk about this in another episode, is actually intentionally giving yourself parasites to immunomodulate.
Yes.
Something I've written about for a lot of years, helminthic therapy. We could put it in the show notes. I've written about it in articles. We could pull the helminth therapy article.
Andrea's done it.
Did
you do it?
I did.
Yeah.
Andrea has willingly, maybe a slight compulsion from me, to early days. This is years ago, right?
Yeah.
The early years of helminthic therapy, gut immune axis research, and there were forward-thinking medical doctors out there that we were just kind of part of that community of N of one experimenting. What someone that has autoimmune issues, what could that
such
do?
as Hashimoto's.
So these
lupus.
are non-human parasites that help to regulate. We are going on tangents, so let's get back to this sweet human being. So let's think of outside-in approach here. Red light therapy can be great. Red light therapy mask. Using ice around. This isn't dealing with the root cause at all, but is it topically helping with the inflammatory or lack of circulation? Like rebounding can even be good here, right? Just increasing that lymph.
Whole body vibration.
Whole body vibration, lymphatic massage.
Yeah.
So there's some ideas that's outside in and inside out perspective to consider and look more into. Noxel. So thanks for the question.
Yeah, and then I'm sure we'll get tons of questions now about parasites, which we will.
Yeah, we didn't mean... I am not saying Knoxville is a parasite. This is just
Knoxville.
A wild thing that could be for some
part
people.
Part of your microbiome health that we would have to consider if you were a patient.
We want to rule it out from a differential diagnosis standpoint. There's a lot more common things than parasites.
Yes. All right. So the next question is anonymous, so we're just going to play it.
Hi, Dr. Dr. Will Cole and team. My name is Jen.
Oh,
My
it's not
question is
anonymous.
regarding my hands, specifically my fingernails. I know they're trying to communicate something to me, and I just don't know what. So on my right hand, my right index finger has some inflammation on the knuckle right below the nail. That's the only finger that looks like that. And then on that same finger, about 1/3 of the nail is concave. So from the base all the way to the top, it's just indented. It's just this big groove. I also have lines on all my fingers going horizontally, little indentations. I have white spots a lot of the times. So what might my fingernails be communicating? What is happening? What might be happening in my body, and how might I address it? Thanks for any insight you can give me.
I think it's a great question.
Yeah.
Yeah. So fingernails are the window into your body. What are they telling us?
I thought you were going to say into your soul.
Well,
when I was
kind of.
Well,
Kind of. Your fingernails are a window into your metabolism, your immune system, nutrient status. They're a check engine light. So what's the body telling us? Like she said, I love the way that she worded that. So let's look at the most common ones. The most common things would actually be the thyroid would be part of it. This episode is brought to you by your thyroid. But we want to look at that.
Co-sponsored by selenium and iodine.
Yeah, right. I didn't plan this, but I want to look at all your thyroid hormones to see, is it optimal? Which I won't belabor that because we just answered that with Knoxville's question. So for Jen's question, rule out thyroid, because if you have low thyroid, that's decreasing and energy, ATP. So you want to make sure that we are having optimal mitochondrial cellular energy function, right?
You do have a great thyroid article that I think that we should link in the show notes too, because it talks about the reference ranges. Talks about because you talked about those optimal ranges. I think that's important. If someone wants to know what those are and has those labs. Notes.
It's like a full guide. You could have it on your phone. If you like to print things out, which I like to do still, just like having
do you
tangible.
Have a binder at home with just like printed things?
I may.
Really?
For me, not binder.
There's no way you have a binder.
I'll be honest with you. My wife's Amber's more of a printing out type of person than I am.
Yeah, it would be like loose in your duffel bag.
All right, she's throwing me under the bus. Yes, I'm kind of like, I'm that duffel bag kind of guy. It's just
I'm too, so I can't even hate on you. I'm so unorganized, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's
and
like
that's why you guys
I'm
need
a
to
mad
be.
scientist. Like it is like
You
I
are
am
like
that.
We have good hair. It's okay.
Okay, yeah, we're showing up.
All
so
right, guys.
Someone can have vertical nail lines. They can have horizontal nail lines, right? Or they can have both, right? These are typically either a thyroid hormone problem or a nutrient deficiency. It can be compounded, multifaceted, because a nutrient deficiency can contribute to the thyroid hormone deficiencies. So you want to look at iron, the full iron panel. Like get a ferritin. You want to make sure that baby is at least 80. If it's not, like there's a potential piece of the puzzle, if not a significant piece of the puzzle, is iron deficiency. Not just serum iron, but iron, total iron binding capacity, ferritin or stored iron. We want at least 80. We want to look at a full MC series or immune crepuscular, like red blood cell measurements, iron saturation, if I didn't say that. You want to make sure that whole iron panel is looking optimal, not average. Look at B12, look at B vitamins, look at zinc, look at these trace minerals. Definitely something to consider here. And then you address what the underlying root cause is based on what we're finding here. But those are some things to consider when it comes to nails. There's other things beyond, like stress can cause, obviously, a disturbance of it. Someone going through an inflammatory health problem can show up on your skin and nails. So some things that can be helpful here, silica or things that are rich with silica, like I love pearl powder, and it has over 30 trace minerals, collagen, like upping collagenic foods, like Holy Mane that I formulated for Agent Natura. We could put it in the show notes. It has the purest marine collagen plus pearl powder, which has been used in traditional Chinese medicine for a long time, and acts as almost an adaptogen. actually, we have a whole protocol stack we can put in the show notes. That is the beauty stack that has lots of different things. Like biotin would be in part of that conversation too. Biotin would be good. And anything else?
I was thinking of the Live 120 as well, just because of all of the nutrient components to it, since you think of nutrient deficiencies a lot with this.
Yeah, so that has like carotenoids, flavonoids, polyphenols, antioxidants. It's food-based from Longevity RX,
Stem cell protein, because it has the organ meats in it.
Yeah.
Organ meats, like focusing on nutrient density. Some peptide call-outs, because if it is a mitochondrial problem, SS31, which is a mitochondrial support peptide, can be good here. MOTC is another mitochondrial support. So you can check if you're, from a educational standpoint, for research purposes only, these peptides do have some promising research on its ability to enhance mitochondria, which would enhance any sort of metabolic, skin energy, nail energy problem. Yeah,
I agree. All of that. I mean, a couple little mentions too. She mentioned inflammation in the knuckle right below that one nail. So I would want to run an immune panel, see if there's some sort of inflammation that's also driving that. And it may not always show up the same way, but yeast fungal is another thing that you can see a lot that can impact nails, especially that concave impact. And not to talk about parasites again, but that's another thing that you can see both in eyes and nails when you're dealing with that. So just a couple of things.
So looking at your gut health would be a good idea. Yeah. It would be. Because those things that I mentioned will be good for anybody, no matter what. It's just like, because you're just dealing with nutrient deficiencies, you're alleviating them. And focusing on iron-rich foods is going to be good for most of these things. I wouldn't supplement with iron unless you truly have an iron deficiency. But certainly focusing on in food form.
Well, that's why organ meats would be so great.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
So...
Next up, it's like I forgot almost.
I know, you just like looked at me like
I looked at you like,
next? I'm like,
where are we going? All right, let me see here. Okay, so our next question is also an anonymous question.
Hi, Dr. Cole, Emily, and Andrea. My name is Michelle. Thank you so much for all the hard work that you guys do, and particularly answering all these crazy questions on your AMA episodes. It is so helpful, and I learn so much every time I listen. I appreciate your balanced approach. I appreciate so much how you guys play off of each other. I feel like you're my friends. So thanks so much.
You guys are a friend.
So my question today is on microdosing GLP-1 options. I know that for you all, you suggest the injections, or that's actually what you offer. I have a family member that I think could really benefit from this, but it would have to absolutely be microdosed. And I think that the injections would be problematic, even with another family member giving them some support. I think it could be really difficult for them. Kind of a unique situation, long story, but I think the injections might be hard. While researching options, I have seen that sometimes it is administered in pill form. I've been seeing more and more of those pop up, and I imagine that you don't suggest that necessarily because it could be problematic through the whole digestive process, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. I also recently came across a possible sublingual option, so wondering how you feel about that. I know.
No.
I know. She got
Speak pipe. Cut you off.
Cut you off.
Thanks for the kind words, and thanks for listening. Okay, so oral versus injectable GLP-1s, what's the best? So most of the research, most of the things on the market are they're subcutaneous. They're getting into the body through injection, and it's a light, delicate insulin needle, and it's nothing painful. There is this sort of fear around needles around when you talk about injections. It's very minimal or no pain at all.
I mean, it's, in my opinion, if you are administering it correctly, there should almost be minimal to no pain, meaning that if you're doing the right spot.
So, okay, let's talk about it though. Why are you giving?
I was laughing because Sam would not want me to inject her because she says that when I do it too fast.
Sam's off camera, but she's on my patient experience team, and she's my handler, basically.
She says, anyone but Emily can do my peptides.
Oh, she's too rough. Yeah, I did a good job, huh? Yeah, I did.
But I'm the best.
Are we surprised?
So the bioavailability, let's talk about that. The bioavailability of oral versus subcutaneous.
Yeah.
The bioavailability for the GLP-1, the way that these peptides are being used for most people, it's like 89 to 90%, meaning your body's getting most of that peptide for that peptide job, whether it's GLP-1 agonists or these next-gen versions of it with the tirzepatide and the retatrutide. But what's the bioavailability of the oral GLP-1s? It's only 1%. But when you look at some meta-analysis, the oral GLP-1, while not outperforming the subcutaneous, the injection has about 3.5 more on average increased weight loss, 3.5 pounds more versus the oral. So for having a 1% bioavailability with oral GLP-1 versus an 89-90% bioavailability for subcutaneous, to only have a 3.5 pound difference, I think that shows you the power of what the mechanism of action here is.
Yeah.
Where's GLP-1 made? It's in the gut. So if you're taking something in the gut that's working in the gut mainly, that's the crosstalk between the gut and the brain, you don't need as high bioavailability is what I'm trying to say when you have only 1% bioavailability, and it's not performing at this point as high as subcutaneous. It's still in the realm. It's FDA approved now as the oral GLP-1. I still don't like it as much for this purpose from the metabolic standpoint. Now, if somebody had more gut inflammation, maybe that would be better for them. The sort of GI discontinuation rate, meaning what most people, like when they quit the drug because of these pitfalls of GLP-1s, like the nausea, the constipation, the GI pain that can happen with when these peptides are done too much for your body, they tend to, the oral GLP-1 can cause more nausea. So that's going to make people quit that more. But I think at this point, the discontinuation rate is still higher for the subcutaneous. It's more systemic, right? It's more systemic. You're probably going to have, on average, more symptoms. And then plus more people are using it. So I don't know if the data is kind of skewed towards that at this point. I think as time goes on, the technology, this would be my guess, is that the technology, the deliverability of the oral is going to improve. Yeah. Is that the sort of the pharmacology of it all is going to improve. The deliverability, the metabolism, the excretion of these is going to be better with oral. But at this point, in 2026, I would say that the sub-Q is going to be best. Now, consistency is key. And I think that's what she's saying here, is that like if they can't stay consistent with the subcutaneous for whatever reason, she didn't go into detail, it's not going to do you any good if you're not consistent with it.
Right,
so
exactly.
I think pragmatically, I'm hearing sort of the art and science of this, the real life implication of it is that maybe the oral would be better for this person. The oral peptide would be better because they're not going to stay consistent with the subcutaneous. All right, then 3.5 pounds, maybe less on average, but it's still going to it's going to be a tool within the toolbox. The job's going to get done.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
I mean, I know you're not really asking this part of it, but I think what I was considering is I wonder if this person also might do better with even starting with like a supplemental approach before just going straight towards like the oral GLP. Like, you know, we use the berberine, L-carnitine, different probiotics, and you know, berberine is called nature's Ozempic, right? Like it has that natural ability for metabolic support. So that was just kind of what I was thinking of. Maybe this is a better approach. Now, obviously, that's a synergistic approach too. So you are taking probably more capsules, but if they're more inclined for oral approach too, that's also another option.
For me, and not to sound like I'm dismissing this entire topic, but for me, with these types of questions, this is why I think consultations are so important, because you can't GLP-1 your way back to a good metabolic health if you're not addressing the other areas of your life too. So there sounds like there's a lot of resistance with this person. So is it like just emotional resistance, lifestyle? You know, they're not eating well, they're not taking care of themselves. So you want to try and give them, you know, like a medication or a peptide to like give them that little bit of a boost. I don't know. I would want, like, well, one, you have to have this conversation with this person. And you're right. You said it's complicated. It sounds more, to me, it's like, are the peptides even the right approach right now, or do we need to start with the basics?
Right.
Like, do we even
Sure.
need to just change this person's lifestyle, their stress, their sleep? You can't supplement your way back to health. And so we have to figure out what that looks like. So because I agree with everything you guys are both saying. Like, it's not a oral versus subcutaneous for me in that perspective without knowing that person's case. And then it's like, all right, yeah, maybe we do need to layer in supplements, and then, or do we need to just establish a baseline? Is this person, you know, having a piece of wheat toast for breakfast and cottage cheese for lunch, and then maybe having like a bowl of cereal for dinner? Well, I would want to address that part first. I'd
That's
be like,
so specific.
Well, I was thinking of
this person.
I was thinking of an application I just read recently. So someone sent in their clinical case review.
What would you call that diet?
Elderly.
Wow.
It's actually not untrue.
Can't wait
'cause I
to see the
actually know a
comments
lot
on that one.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I actually know a lot of elderly people that do eat like that. My grandma
eat like that. That's why I'm saying
102
it.
years old. I mean, no knock on her, but I mean, so
Yeah.
be born in the 1920s so your gut microbiome's better and not exposed to
Yeah,
glyphosate at 6 months, and then eat that way.
There you go.
My great grandma is 105, guys. She's still alive, still kicking, and she has a can of beer and a donut every day for lunch. So I mean,
Grandma.
like,
Wow.
how can you make a 105-year-old change their life? I'm not going to be like, all right, Graham, we need more protein. Like, you know, like, but it's like at that point. But I mean, I'm serious. That was the entirety of this person's date.
You saw this in real life.
I saw this in real life, and
Not from your grandma, but a telehealth patient.
of a clinical case review that came across my desk where I had to meet with someone. And so I wouldn't have recommended a GLP for this person. I would have said, well, you're not eating enough.
Not starting off. Like maybe at some point. But
so I think that I just want to preface these conversations because peptides are coming up a lot. I think they are a great biohacking tool in our toolbox. We can utilize these things, but have you established the basics? Because at some point in time, you cannot supplement your way back to health.
Yeah.
And that would be my first question is like, does
Yeah.
this person need more than just an oral peptide?
Yeah, I think because I 100% agree with that. That absolutely is what our vision is when we're working with people. But I think the only like caveat to that would be is sometimes it can be helpful with someone kind of getting on the right page too of using
you're
those,
right.
that type of approach.
But if someone's already under eating, it's the opposite.
Right, it's the
now
opposite.
you're
most people are not under
they're
eating.
not, right? So I do think that would be the only thing that we try to be mindful of is could this be a tool that could help someone get their head above water while we are working on those foundational things? Because it is true. This is synergistic. These things work together. You can't just do one or the other. We have to really look at this as a whole, but sometimes it can be very helpful to get their head above water for sure.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
All that.
Yeah. So you guys wanted to.
Yeah, it actually kind of ties in. So
There's some other topic that's kind of a hot topic that they want to get into.
Yeah, this didn't come in through SpeakPipe, but this came in from us looking at your social channels. So there's a lot of
What could go on there?
We kind of stalk you.
We do, and there was just a lot of things on your most recent Ozempic post, and it talking about GLPs and that's Ozempic personality. So it's these people that are saying it's not just numbing their food, it's numbing them, and they're becoming disinterested in love. And so one of the comments,
we covered this. Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah,
we covered this in the previous Ask Me Anything. We could put it in the show notes too. Sorry, Brooke. The show notes will be a library of resources for people to learn more about. So we covered this in an Ask Me Anything. So I made a reel about the Ask Me Anything episode talking about the conversations in the neuroscience and wellness world around this Ozempic personality. Are GLP-1s not just decreasing your food cravings, are they decreasing your desire for love? What are the people saying?
Yeah, so this is one that's confirming. So I'm gonna read this. It said yes.
Well, who said this?
LaRoberg. You're gonna know these names better than me.
Oh, let's Lauren Roxburgh.
Oh, Lauren Roxburgh. Oh, I know her.
She's been on the podcast.
Okay, do you think I know Instagram handles? Do you really, yeah. I'm an elderly person.
Lauren Roxburgh, I'm putting my friends on blast here on the pod. So they made this public in the comment section, so they have to be okay with this.
So it was in the comment section. So Lauren Roxburgh said, yes, thank you for saying this. I can also say I've sadly experienced this with people on these drugs, and people should try CalCurb that naturally stimulates your own GLP. So she's saying she's seeing it regularly with people who are on these drugs.
Okay. So then didn't Nicole LePera say something too?
Yeah, the holistic psychologist.
Let me see. Oh, yep, the holistic psychologist.
This is Nicole LePera, who was just on the podcast recently.
Yeah.
What did she say?
She said, such fascinating research. And after having a bad close contact with those on it, I got to say, I have sadly experienced those results firsthand.
Wow.
Which is wild.
Yeah.
It's very...
I mean, even just a general person underneath. Yes, true. This is what I've been saying.
But then you have some people that are actually kind of saying the opposite. You had a comment here from Bethany that said, I have actually experienced the opposite being on a GLP-1 now for only a week. Although it has significantly decreased the food noise, everything else is heightened. My mental clarity, energy, happiness, and the love I have for my new partner. So...
Okay, so let's break it down. Are GLP-1 peptides killing your love life? Okay, so I don't really give much credence to that person only because she'd only been on it for a week.
Right.
We're not talking about a week. So the caveat here is we utilize peptides like GLP-1 and all the next gen versions of it clinically for telehealth patients. Yeah. And we explore the research on it and all the trials out there. So we're very adept at this topic. What we talked about on the last episode when I talked about in the reel is this, could we be creating a generation of people that are exacerbating already problematic relationship issues in our culture, paired with the rise of AI and people falling in love with their chatbot? Is this creating this sort of dysfunctional problem of us overcorrecting because of our metabolic problem as a society, that if a little is good, then more is better, and we like to overdo everything in our culture? So could the macro dose in perpetuity, never coming off of it, never cycling, never giving our receptor sites a break, are we disturbing nature too much? Right? And I'm of the opinion that actually, because of the impact of our gut microbiome as a species, there's an argument for microdoses of these certain peptides ongoing in perpetuity, because you're basically replacing what our gut should have made on its own, but because of modernity, we don't have the proper microbiome health or whatever that's impacting it. So I am not. I think there's a place for certain people to be on these things to maintain metabolic health or inflammatory health or immune health ongoing, but that's a case by case basis. And what's the dose? Like, are we overdoing it because we're not pairing it with lifestyle the way that the world is doing it? So when you have a both and not either or approach, you don't need high doses most of the time. You can microdose, and you can be on it cyclically and sort of pulse these things more judiciously and conservatively. So the idea, the fact that Dr. Nicole LePera, Lauren Roxburgh, like big names in the wellness world, are coming out in my comment section on social media saying that they've experienced this in their own life with people they've known, or maybe even themselves, I'm not even sure, or both.
Or treating or helping,
Is this, because the understanding is, and there's more studies need to be done, but these drugs, these peptides work on reward, pleasure, desire, craving mechanisms in the brain, the crosstalk between your gut, your second brain, and your actual brain. So dopamine is how it's decreasing by dulling the dopamine response it is dulling food cravings or the food noise, as the question said, or the comment said. But it also, there's studies showing, which we've talked about in the pod before, decreased alcohol cravings, decreased drug cravings, other sort of addictive qualities, which is promising for people that are addicts, whether they're food addicts or drug addicts or alcoholics. Exciting. But again, are we overdoing it in our world where it's like, okay, wow, let's just take it to the extreme and never talk about the context and nuance of what's the sweet spot with our relationship with peptides. So I think it's obviously multifaceted, but I do think there's probably something there. Where there's smoke, there's fire. And I think that the people's lived experiences of what they're experiencing, is it a problem? And then you think it's probably multi-layered in the sense of maybe people just their confidence changes, and it's probably like a diminishing returns at a certain point, where I think if they increase confidence, it can actually help your relationship. True. If somebody's feeling inflamed and flabby and not confident in their body, not having that and using peptides as a tool within the toolbox, not as the only tool, I could see it dramatically improving the relationship. But then is there diminishing returns where it's like, then you are just like personality-wise kind of a different person, where the things you maybe put up in your relationship you're not putting up with anymore because you have this increased confidence. Before you didn't have the worthiness, now you have the worthiness. It wasn't necessarily the dopamine receptors, it was more of like your perception of self on a mental emotional level. I could see that being the way too, because if someone's not confident in themselves, they will put up with things that they wouldn't otherwise put up with. And then when they feel more confident, your standards may have changed. Yeah. Those are some hypothetical thoughts that I have about this. What do you guys think?
I mean, I think this just goes back to what you were saying in the previous question, that we cannot just rely on this. We cannot just rely on peptides. It's you can't supplement your way into health. We need to make sure that we're addressing this from the root, because if you are, then we should find over time that yes, it's a tool, but it's not one that we need to use all the time. It's not one that we need to overdose on. Like you should be able to utilize it, but not have to rely on it. And that's our goal with peptides and how we use anything is as a tool. I mean, we don't want people to have to rely on supplement protocols for the rest of their life either. We want them to have it as tools. Yes, you will find things that work for you well, really long term, but they're tools in the toolbox.
For me, I just have, I want more data. I want more research. I like, because it's not necessarily, we're microdosing it most of the time when we're working with a client. So we're not seeing these macro dosing altering of relationships. But I will say this, and we've talked about this on this podcast before, to what you were saying, Will, about how people start to have value or they start to look at their relationships different. I'm not even just talking GLPs. I'm talking
anybody's health improvement.
Just
any health improvement.
We see this in the autoimmune community too. Yes. So explain that, because I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. So like someone who, say, maybe is just feeling run down, debilitated. It's not a visible thing that their partner can see.
We're not talking about weight loss here.
I'm not talking about weight loss. I'm talking about someone who is fatigued, brain fogged, gastrointestinal health, someone who autoimmune symptoms that they just cannot seem to overcome. And as they begin to feel better, and they're starting to realize their spouse still isn't on board with the changes that they're making in their life to feel better. They're being contrary. They're not helping with the food. They're not willing to change their diet as a family. Like that, you can see it, and you see that these people finally have an awakening. They finally have enough physical health and mental space to even think about, like, is this partner supporting me in the way that I want? And two, like, what are you keeping me trapped in a cycle of being unhealthy? And now I can recognize what that is. And that's just as simple as not being willing to share a dinner, or being willing to like change the way we grocery shop, or the way that you view how you're caring for your body. If they can't get behind that and they're seeing you get better, it's like this awakening. They're like, oh, well, you don't even want me well. you don't even care to support me in this. Because it's different if a spouse is like, I don't understand it, but I'm like really happy for you. But someone that's giving them pushback and these changes that they're trying to make.
Yeah. So I think some of these, I think this is highlighting what I've been saying is like, maybe part of it is physiological with dopamine reward centers and the crosstalk between the gut and the brain. And maybe part of it's situational and someone's own self-worth and identity.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
changing over time.
And we've seen it happen even a little bit differently too, where sometimes your partner doesn't understand it at first, but then they do start to see you feeling better and they're like, whoa, do I need to make changes too? Like it can also be, it doesn't always go that way
it's
too.
Not
We've
always
definitely seen it, but we've also seen it awaken even someone's partner or spouse too, where they're like, wait, now I need to go and get help because I see you feeling better. So it's not always bad, but we have seen it. We've seen kind of both sides to that.
Yeah, we've seen relationships definitely shift for the better and for the worse when somebody's health changes. And I think this could be part of the conversation.
And that's what I'm saying. And then the other part of it for me is like, if to me, a baseline would be someone who, quote, fell out of love with their partner, but didn't start like dating other people. Like they truly just became kind of numb to the whole idea of love in general. To me, it feels like, well, that could make sense. But if you're telling me you, quote, fell out of love with your partner and then 3 months later you start dating because you think you look hot, was it the GLP or was there a problem with the relationship?
Yeah.
So like to me,
those
it's
are
like,
two different scenarios.
point. That's my point. It's
but
like,
these people are definitely, they're not saying that. So I think both things can probably be happening in
but
two
the
different
second
people.
comment, the one that I read, where she's saying she's experiencing the opposite, she also said new partner too. So my question was, is it the GLP or is it the fact that you're in a new relationship?
Yeah,
because
and dopamine is actually needed more with that newer season of your relationship.
Yes. Right.
And that's where like it's desire and love is more than just dopamine. It's oxytocin, it's serotonin, it's a lot of things that are even on a spiritual level.
Because the butterfly effect too is really like a cortisol type of response. Like, so the longer you've been with someone, that actually should go away. Mm-hmm. I think we sometimes think, oh, I've lost those butterflies, but like technically you should, because you've gotten comfortable with someone that you've been around. So that's what I wonder too with the second comment is it like just because there's still, the newness of it? Yeah.
But a newness paired with improved metabolic health and increased confidence is probably a recipe for improved
That's great.
relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go have fun.
Less inflammation. There's a lot of off-label use for GLP-1s as far as its modulation for different inflammatory problems too. So anyways, let's look at the mechanism of action real quick before we go. If it is a dopamine blunting, these are some thoughts I have from a mechanism here. Is there a way to, in addition to microdosing and lifestyle pairing, all this stuff, can we have a both and not either or approach instead of saying peptide's bad, or peptide's great and only peptides? What's the middle route here? Okay, microdosing cyclical, yes. But then let's understand these potential pitfalls. Maybe there is a dopamine blunting. How can we work on these dopaminergic pathways to mitigate any maybe overcorrecting of the blunting? So focus on more like tyrosine-rich foods, phenylalanine foods, these amino acids that are the precursor building blocks to dopamine. Maybe you give your body some extra nutrient density to help to balance this all out. So grass-fed beef, turkey, lamb, like any eggs, dairy are rich with tyrosine and phenylalanine, which help your body, these amino acids, to build dopamine. Some like supplements that can be good, like vitamin B6, paroxetine, helps to build dopamine. Mucunapurians, it's a food, but you get it in typically it's like a powder form, but it's velvet bean. It's an adaptogen that's rich with L-dopa, which is a plant compound that helps to enhance dopamine levels. Ginkgo biloba. What else? Ginkgo biloba is one. Bacopa. These neurotropics can help with natural. They're not like exogenous dopamine, but they're modulators of dopamine and dopamine receptor sites. So they're not going to increase food cravings, but are they going to help to mitigate some of the sort of sharper edges of prolonged use of these peptides? Possibly, right? So food for thought from a food standpoint and a supplement standpoint. I'll put it in the show notes again here, the brain protocol on the Art of Being Well, because it has, the neurotropic has some of these neurotropics and B6 that will help with brain function as a whole. Creatine's another thing that comes to mind.
Yes.
It doesn't work on dopamine, but it works on potentially preserving dopaminergic neurons, and it helps with ATP, right, in general. So it's good for brain health. We know it helps with depression, which there is studies to show that for some people, GLP-1s can slightly enhance depression. Maybe because of the same pathways, right? It's like shifting the way the body's. So if somebody is already prone to low dopamine, I could see this being problematic, because if you're impacting dopamine too much, you could make depression or anxiety worse for some people. Not everybody, but some people.
I don't want to get too into a whole nother topic, because I know we have to wrap this up, but I did want to mention, like, this is where we're talking about going deeper and looking at those underlying root causes, because you look at something like mold toxins. So if we're back to the pathogen world, there are certain mold toxins that actually impact that dopamine, norepinephrine, and epinephrine conversation, and that can also be coupled with the methylation impairments, which is why B6 can be helpful here. So was there something underlying, and then this just tipped the scale that was causing a bigger issue? And so that you kind of have to look at those COMT pathways, like the genetic components of this. Like, is your body not having conversations very well? Is it inhibited? Are there pathogenic issues that are contributing to this? And then you're on top of it, you're layering this other potential variable that also can increase that dysfunction. So it doesn't make the GLP-1 bad. It just means all the other confluence of issues exacerbated this response. So again, knowing your body before you just start taking something can be very beneficial.
Yeah, that's a good point. All right, guys, I think that's everything. If you want to learn more about our clinical work, the Telehealth Center, tons of free resources for you as well, and all these topics and more. And as we keep talking about the show notes, you just go to podcast and go to this episode, and all the links that we talked about are in on that page. Check it out at drwillcole.com. We'll see you next time.